I am strumming. Wow, we got already a few people. Oh, well, what's this? We're just gonna be doing random stuff. We aren't gonna be doing very much. We're just kind of gonna be screwing around. Maybe like we're not gonna be doing much Mario Maker related, but we are going to be doing random stuff until Mario Maker's release. You can see in the corner of the stream. You can see the countdown. You can see in the top right the countdown until it releases. Your channel's dead. Well, F in the chat. Yeah, everyone friend Brutus and maybe me? Here, I'll get my friend code and paste in the chat. Okay.
Popoyo.
Okay.
1 hour 29. Well, it's just past 1 hour 30.
GG.
I'm happy.
Club Step 87, Blue Health 69, and Infinite Circles 55. Keep up the work. You can do this. I believe in you. Well, for now, I'm actually going to play my own game. My mom.
Wacky.
Yeah, so you can watch this if you want. Okay, so here's this. Hello. Okay, it's way too loud.
That's wacky.
What?
Oh, wacky.
Okay, there, I found it. Okay, there's the volume switch. Okay.
It doesn't change on the stream, by the way.
It doesn't?
No.
Nah, it did. It took a second for me to figure out which one it was actually controlling. Rebetica, by the way, I know. That is a very sad moment. Like, no joke. That sounds like I'm joking, and I'm not. That is... Joy-Con boys, okay. Okay, so welcome to bad. Why is the volume loud again? Okay, I'll just keep this open then. Yeah, but seriously, Etika committing suicide is very sad. He seemed like a great person. Seemed like a pretty funny streamer, so I never really watched him, but there's no way I'm fixing this. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so here's gamer game. Oh, Etika. Yeah. What? What, Theodore? I was gonna publish a video on this. 2019 sucks so far, maybe even worse than 2018. Really? I think, well, at least for gaming, I think it's been a great year so far. But sorry to hear that. But like, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, Etika dying and all that. That's some bigness. Because, like, no matter where I look on the internet, I'm gonna see something about Etika committing suicide. But no joke, that is a very sad event. I really don't want to write a lot about Etika again. Oh, I lectured about him already? Huh. Hello. Hello, I still don't know how to pronounce your name exactly. Can you tell me? Yeah, just tell me how to pronounce your name, please. Stream died?
No,
Okay, we're back, guys. Sorry. Dude, is the stream dead for you? Dude, is the stream... Wait. Is the stream dead for you? Super Mario no, I don't think it did. Did Super Mario Maker 2 already come out in Australia? Hello? Huh? Did it come out in Australia already? Australia doesn't exist, so. Hell yeah, call me Carson. This steam proves it. Hamburger. Mix. What? Oh yeah, I already have you added surfing the web. AKA Bree Bree. I agree. Fish? Come on, what? What is this? Okay, there, I made it. Go, 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 go. No. Oh my god. That was so stressful, to be honest. Because that was literally like the last second. Also, what video is this? It's a Mario time. Oh, wow. Out in Australia. That's crazy.
not nice when you pick up a pipe instead of a block.
I'm trying to decorate. This is what I'm like when Animal Crossing, guys. When Animal Crossing comes out, there's gonna be a lot of streams of me just playing the game and I'm just like doing really slow stuff like this. Like, guys, it needs to be.
Well, that's Animal Crossing.
Oh, what do you mean? Mario Maker's a creative tool.
It is. But. That's a big butt.
Who has a big butt? Mario has a big butt.
What you said? Who has a big butt? Mario has a big butt. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you going to eat any demons or stream them? Probably not. I highly doubt it. Sorry, it's just kind of... Beating demons isn't really my thing. It kind of used to be, but no. I suck. Hamburger, I agree. That's a powerful emoji. Okay. Hell yeah. Oh no. Hey, who turned out the lights? Oh! I don't know what the hell that was. Weird, like, Bowser fuck voice. Bowser fuck. Never mind. Oh my god, that's close. Okay, last level so far in this game. And it's a fucking beach level. It's not very fitting for final level, which is why it's not actually the final level. It's just currently the final level. Hot dog. Hot dog. By the way, for people who are wondering, I call this game, I unironically listen to the 3D World soundtrack, the game. How about you don't? That's a very concerning emoji face. I don't like it. Oh god. Okay, I was expecting to jump really far. I forgot my own levels. This is pathetic. Well, that's pathetic too. There you go. Okay, just one last part. GG. Hello? Okay, good. Now, so that was, I unironically listened to the, yeah, I unironically listened to, no wait, it's ironic, I unironically enjoyed the 3D World soundtrack, the game. Okay. It's hard to say. Okay. Welcome to Sab J. Welcome to Sad J. How about... I hate that. That's cursed. That is a cursed emoji shit. Shit. It's cursed emoji shit. Yeah, right. Imagine if I could beat this without dashing. Never mind. Never mind. You hear? I agree. Hey. Painful. Hey, you homo gay dab epic gamer. Okay. I don't even remember this song. Did I ever even do it? Yeah, I did it. Never mind. Yeah, I did this. Very epic, yes? No call right now, just so you're aware, because I'm already in a call. Brutus appears to be very silent, but he will say something in 3, 2, 1. I hate this. YouTube would not let me say like for free iPhone 5. Seriously? Huh. Weird. Yo, you're right? That's weird. Oh, Jesus Christ. This person is Uno. No, you reverse. Oh shit, this is going intense. Oh god, please. Oh Jesus. Dude, this is a safe spot. Oh, never mind. Fuck. Oh yeah. You gotcha if you in doubt. You got you into yeah. What? Did I do something?
What?
No, I'm talking to my stream. I'm really confused. Did I say something?
You said.
Oh, I'm fine. Oh, okay. I was really confused. I really like Subtle's phone. Okay, good. I don't know what hardcore is like on this level. Okay, the real question: Are you still a boy in straight? Okay. Are you talking to me? Can we make a blacklisted word? I'd rather not because Just because like people would just say that as a joke and then they'd get banned or some shit. Yeah, I'd rather not. Who doesn't have to go through that as a little joke? What, boy or girl? No, Jet. Okay. Don't even know what's going on. Okay, that's a curse solo. I agree, Uwu is better. I actually honestly agreed that Uwu is better. Hardcore. I'm scared. Okay, so far it seems a bit normal. Or other. Toaster. I think they just added the kind of ninja star things. Yeah, okay, it's not very interesting. Casual mode. You can just go into casual, okay. I classify as non-existent. I classify myself as a tissue box. Yeah, pretty much. We pretty much got an hour left now, guys. Send me things to do. Meme review. That rhymed. I'm happy. Brutus, do you have anything I could do?
Popcorn.
Pop-Tart? What'd you say?
I said popcorn.
Pop-Turn.
I said popcorn.
Night in the Woods. I do not have that game downloaded. Ooh, play Osu. Yeah. I was planning on doing that on stream someday. So I guess I'll have to do it now. I am now being forced to play Osu. Help. Okay. Okay. Welcome to bad.
Please.
I have like no fucking songs on this shit.
Ha.
I'ma join you. Invite call? No. 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 Here's a bad song that I made. Well, I didn't make the song, I made the chart, or whatever you call fucking... level... Mouse? Mouse, hello? Mouse? What the f... Mouse broke. Poopy. I agree. I cry now? Okay, you do that. Roasted. Traps are gay. Well, no shit. Bro, sound effect, bruh. By the way, you don't have to click. You can. I don't give a shit. I like clicking. It makes more sense to me. There is a reason why some people don't play with the mouse. Shut. I got a check. I don't know what the fuck it means, but I'm happy. Bruh.
4, 3, 5, 3, 2, 1. God damn it, 1 minute. 1 hour.
Okay. Yes.
Pooh.
Fuck is this? Not sync shit. Oh shit. Fuck. That was hard. Didn't even clear it. What the fuck is it? What? No. No, don't sync up to the lyrics all of a sudden. Jen, am I too annoying or loud or both? No, neither. You're pretty nice, actually. So I decided to chop... Okay. Why am you... Why? No. What? Please stop. You're scaring me. 2 months ago, would it be here? No. There it is. This is the one that... Good map. What? Nani. Once I saw an Instagram post of someone with their fingers skinned to their bones for some reason. Now I enjoy getting that image out of your head. Yeah, thanks. I mean, like, but you saw it, so I am sorry to hear that. That sounds very scarring. I saw a post where a dude chopped. Okay.
Button.
Wait, Wait, what the f... Did you? Snowy, I just want to tell you something. I love how literally every time you come into my fucking stream, you're just like, you just start spamming yeah, you just start spamming for literally no reason. Yet when I say like 5 fucking messages in your chat, that are the same thing, I get timed out. That actually kind of makes me genuinely mad, but it's okay. Come on, give me bro sound effect. Bro!
Comes on you.
What? What?
You.
I'm aware that A is being spammed. It's kind of annoying. Oh my god. So we go, can we chill? Yeah, what the hell's happening? Black people, I agree. I remember being a mod in a Discord server of a GD YouTuber named Poison Arch. The chat died, I just typed up 4 small messages, and then admin, and then an admin comes online and says, shut the fuck up, spammer. Wow. Yeah, what the heck. I'm think of a game. Hello, think of a game. Fuck. I'm think of a game. Hello, I'm think of a game. Why? I just don't even have it. It just disappeared. Wait. Oh, here it is. Okay, that's weird. GD! Unban me from the Discord server? Wait, did I ban you? Sorry if I did. I don't know how the fuck that happened. I think it was just a meme. Yeah, it's a meme. Yeah, weren't we trying to like ban you or something? Okay, Bob. Okay, unban. Oh no, it's like, yeah. Unban. I forgot your name.
Saber.
Bruh. What Discord server? Yeah, my Discord server. Fuck. Oh hey, we got him. Mod. Oh no. Is there a when searching? Oh, replace spaces with underscores. Okay, that makes sense. What the fuck? Oh, I forgot to do the at. Oh, never mind.
Do you want me to literally unban him for you?
It's already unbanned. He's already unbanned for some fucking
Yes.
reason.
Oh.
Was someone humming Wii Sports boxing theme? I don't know. Dude, Divex, it's in description. Dude, it's in the description! It's in the description. Right next to my Discord tag in parentheses in the description. I'm gay station and this is... Oh my god. Please shut up. Yeah, oh yeah, I heard about, whatchamacallit, what's his name? Yeah, his name is Bruh. Let me... this isn't the guy, but I mean, like, hang on a second. You want a rank called Best Stream Mod? Oh boy, we got Bree Bree. God, everybody's fucking joining. Yeah, to be completely honest, he is the best stream mod. Sorry, all of you are awesome. What the fuck? Why'd I click on that? Help. So you can't clone things. It's fucking annoying. Then, so we'll put you like right above mods. Best stream mod. Here, we'll call you. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that's good. So what do you have for Brutus? So,
Poop. But.
We'll just make him the same as mods, actually. Sorry to see this happen on the stream, but...
Poopy. I'm slowly going insane.
What the hell is
I am not
this?
joking. I am slowly going insane. Help.
That is epic. Why the fuck Vinny be streaming totally at... Oh, never mind, he uploaded video. I'm a fucking idiot. Oh yeah, Jason. Yeah, he's an idiot.
Who?
Bro. I'm done. Window fades out magically.
Funny meme.
Oh no, I have to see the image title. Wait, where'd you send it? Wait, where'd you send it?
Wait, what? Send what?
Oh, that was you. In here. Okay, yeah, this is a perfect image. I am the ultimate life form. Fear me. Kirby with a fucking knife. I swear. Okay, there you go. Kirby wins. God, I swear, fucking stop. Here, I'll spam this instead. Oh my god. Me and the boys making a threat, that's pretty good. Kirby wins. Where's lots of music here?
1, 2, 3, ball.
It's snowy. Oh my god. Hanen. Not that one again. Oh my god. This is painful. Yeah, Divexi is a good mod too. I feel like an idiot. Dude, everyone's a good mod to be honest. Fuck. What the hell is happening? Brutus, you can't kick his member! Throw him again! They just can't! It's so hard! I'm a good mod, the only. You know what? 2 best mods. What the fuck? Who? Silence, liberal. Achievement poo nugget. What the frick? Big mood. Big mood. Achievement poo. Where the frick is? Okay, there he is. Best mod. Okay, we have 2 best stream mods. The competition is real. Kirby. Wait, who kicked? Big mood right there. Finna snap. Cursed. Shit. Okay, that's pretty fucking perfect. Egg.
Loogie baloogie.
Loogie baloogie. Gift nitro. No one cares. Garfield. Go Garfield, you lazy cat. You're so big and fat. Oh shit. Despacito. Breaking benches. Okay.
Loogie baloogie.
What the? Ah! I don't like that. Oh my god. That scared me.
Hello, Jet.
Okay, who keeps sending
Put
that?
the nugget in my belly
Who
button.
keeps sending that fucking image? I hate it.
What image?
That
Open
Sonic one. That Sonic one. Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know. Who's sending it? Who nugget in my belly? Oh no, I'm a weeb bot. Who is this?
Can you don't?
Who turned me into a bot?
And what the fuck? I hate when people actually talk in this because it literally just gets it just
Oh, hello.
am I
Oh,
the
hello.
hi.
You have chicken syndrome.
Uno.
How'd you know?
Ghost.
Trace.
Quattro.
Quattro.
Cinco.
Screams
People.
and Megalovania. What is happening?
7.
Yes.
You're right.
I'm just damn.
Damn!
Yes. Yes. Oh my god.
Ultimate.
What's popping?
What's
Oh my god.
Please stop.
Well, that's a brown one too.
Oh, so all of a sudden I'm a girl.
Ew!
E.
I
Ew!
just hit you with that ooh woo.
Eewee.
Oh, okay, yeah, just move me out. Stop moving.
What's that? What is happening?
Jet, stop.
What is happening?
Jet, stop, please. Who is moving people out? Who is
This
moving
is
people
actual
out?
hell.
Who is moving people out?
I don't know.
I hate this.
I want to die.
Oh, no, you're deafening me. How is server muting and server deafening?
Who's eating paper?
Poopy butt.
Oprah.
Why?
Just us.
Yeah,
Like,
now.
Dude, realize that after. Realize that after.
Jet,
Okay.
help.
No. Realize that after all this time. After all this time, we haven't even we haven't even glossed over the fact that we pretty much have like 32 minutes until Mario Maker releases. Mario Maker 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who's moving me? Brutus, stop, you big gay. Stop. If you do it one more time, you have homo. You feel?
If you don't
Everyone in TeamSpeak. Everyone go into TeamSpeak.
Yes. 69.
poopy.
Yo, this is poopy.
So now our voices are really low quality because we're using TeamSpeak.
They're using a toaster as a mic.
Bro, I'm using a toaster. Oh gosh, okay, that's an epic sand. You see
Yes.
that Fortnite dance?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I was now.
Hey everyone, how is it?
Poop.
Dance, oh my god.
Brutus, you are a fine duck.
Stopbullying.com.
What?
Stop bullying!
What?
That's the greatest website I've ever heard.
Oh no, they're doing the Lenny gif. Oh no no. Oh no no. I am spooked.
This is pain.
This is painful. There's so many people getting moved out.
I know.
And it's usually me and I don't like it.
I've just been called a fine duck.
That's nice.
Yo, poop.
No, oop, poop, oop. Alright, guys, to make this server even worse, everyone spam some Ugandan knuckles. Epic.
Mm-mm.
Jet said we'd collab, but we never did. I'm still mad.
That's epic. I have the original. Get on my level. I have the original copy pasta.
Epic.
Epic win. Oh no, everyone did send me just a free
Collab with you, no.
I'm gonna click a random GIF. Okay, this is the most random one I could find.
Yeah.
Wait. You are not immune to propaganda. What if I said I am immune to propaganda?
Ugh.
Guys, poop, poop.
I agree.
Wait, 29 minutes until mom makes 2.
Yay.
Super Mario made 2.
Jet, make a 24-hour version of this is dumb.
No, you need to make a 24-hour version on zooming in on a pillow. Who
No.
deleted the chat?
Two.
Did someone heckin' delete the chat?
Jet in a nutshell.
Who is your what is just what oh my god.
If people are deleting stuff, it's like...
Someone added normie chat. Wait, that's general chat. What the fuck?
Like, who freaking... Go check edit logs, Jet.
Yeah, you're right. What
It
the
was
fuck?
me.
I hate you.
Demodded.
Yeah. Yeah, to be completely honest.
Okay, now my
no.
thing is placed correct. Pepega clap. Twitch emote unironically. Haha.
Yeah, you literally deleted the entire history of our. Can I undo that?
No, sadly no.
Oh my.
That would take too much bandwidth for them to save the text.
That is so fucking. Brutus, that's seriously not funny.
I'm
Just
very hungry.
It really isn't. Like,
okay, but get it up.
Give me the French fries.
Get rid of French fries.
Jet now
Give me the
hates me.
jam.
who was that?
Give me the noodles.
Barrett does gaming. Who is this?
Jet hates me because
Give
I
me the
did this.
bread.
What?
Bruh.
Wait, no, I have the best one. Wait, Jet, give me access to the music chat.
No. I don't
Who? Wait, you don't have access? Who doesn't have access?
I don't.
Wait, seriously, what? It's just called bots and music. It's just called bots and music.
give me. No. I don't want that.
Okay, everyone move to
No.
normal.
I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that.
I want my pen
The
back.
stream is very delayed.
Okay, but promise you won't fucking like delete our history.
Okay.
Well,
The only
luckily,
thing
I'm
I'll
on
delete is
pro.
my existence.
Give me the rice.
Please stop. He going there now.
Who dares me to do the girliest girl voice I could ever do?
No. No.
If you keep moving him into this channel, I will literally do the worst thing ever.
No.
By the way, who is Bree Bree? Oh, it's okay. It's surfing the web, man. I thought it was Endau because of his name. Like, why is it Bree Bree?
Fuck is this?
You like this sick song? No.
What's that?
I have no clue.
When you're surfing on. What? What?
Everybody, it's me,
What?
What the hell?
you want to come inside my clubhouse?
Oh no. No.
Just wait, just wait, just wait.
No.
Say, can I come inside my clubhouse?
What the
No.
Stop!
Stop skipping. Just wait, just wait, just wait. Just wait, right here, right here. This is the most epic video ever.
Mickey Mouse.
Just wait, here it goes.
Mickey Mouse.
Oh my god. Bruh. What? Why? Why?
Oh yeah.
I want
My
to
nose
die.
makes me go.
Bruh, moment. Oh my god.
I think I broke rhythm. Pitbull.
Sorry.
This is some guy who comments on my videos and these are his videos.
Oh yeah.
I'm dying.
No. Okay, guys, do not play a single song, please.
No. You must know. This
Oh,
is gonna
no.
play forever now, isn't it? This is gonna play forever. Yay, it's over. Oh my god.
Okay, fine.
I'm about to die. My brain cells are dying one by one.
Time for a classic.
What is this?
Oh no! Oh my god! No, please.
Yes.
Yee juice? Yee juice? What is happening anymore?
Oh my god.
Just wait.
I got the horses in the back.
Oh my god, we got Mario pissing in here. This is amazing.
Help me.
Yee juice.
Okay, good.
Shot on iPhone.
Please kill me.
Yes! We got listen to this.
Jumping at you. That's what you're supposed to do. I might do it fucking later.
Might do it fucking later.
Enemy, you're supposed to jump at me. Okie dokie then. Let me pull off my pants again.
This is the best
first,
auto-tune
and
ever.
then maybe I'll jump on you.
Maybe. Maybe.
Out of your fucking mind?
Like, gonna catch me rider.
Fine. Time to take a piss.
Oh my god.
What the hell are you doing?
Oh, Jen is very much looking to find a video right now.
No, I'm actually not.
He's scurrying to find a video.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm a motherfucking enemy. You're supposed to jump at me.
Why does he refer to a Goomba as an anime? I'm so fucking confused.
Maybe I'll jump on.
Maybe.
Somebody kill me.
How long? And what time? Yeah, what time though? Okay. Dude, this is gonna go forever.
Please stop it. Please. I'm done.
Oh no, not those notes.
This is the best thing ever.
This is a culmination of everything, Jet.
Love you, mama.
Oh my god, what the heck?
Watch the video if you're confused.
Look at the top of his head. Look at his lips. How did you feel when Kids Bop changed riding on my tractor, lean all in my bladder in Old Town Road to riding on my tractor, riding on my bladder? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Did they?
Oh my god, why?
I understand that they had to change lean all in my bladder, but why in God's name did they even keep the bladder part? So many things rhyme with tractor. Doing more chores after, someone get a ladder, caught me staring at her, can't feel any gladder, madder than a hatter. All of those make more sense than riding on my bladder. But that's not even the best part about this Kids Bop cover. In the original Old Town Road song, the immediate next lyrics are cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her. Now, obviously, the Kids Bop kids can't be singing about cheating on their baby, so how, I ask you, do you think they changed that lyric?
Oh
Is it,
god.
my girl did something crazy, feeling super lazy, cloudy skies be hazy, or saw a pretty lady? I'll give you 30 seconds on the clock. Okay, time's up.
Talk really. What? What the fuck?
They left that line in. They let a 9-year-old sing cheated on my baby. You can go and ask her. The rules of Kids Bop are just
Chicago smooth.
chaos. I can't be the only one fascinated by this, right?
Get nated.
Why aren't more people talking about
You got
it?
nated.
All right, Jack asked. We have more questions. Is Two Toes Up excited for Banjo and Smash? Oh, hell yeah, dude. In fact, here is the actual conversation we had as soon as I found out Banjo was in Smash. I told her, Banjo-Kazooie's coming to Smash Bros. Please
Hey, BRB.
She responds, woof. So then I
Just 15 minutes.
from that Nintendo trailer, and then she responds, I hate Smash Bros. Worst game ever. So yeah, Aaron is very
Worst game ever.
I think I'm gonna sign us up for a wife swap. Who are you? I don't do existential questions, my dude. Your bio is horrible. Please fix. Alright, let's take a look at my bio. The Yai guy. pretty perfect to me, sorry. Yeah, I'm not fixing that. I know this might not be a good question, but I've watched your channel for about a year, and I think it's amazing. Thank you. If you could collaborate with any YouTuber, who would it be? So, one of my all-time favorite YouTubers that I never worked with is Video Game Donkey. I love him, I love his style, I love his comedy. I'm sure a lot of you guys already watch him. He's just one of those guys that cracks me up, and I would love to work with him someday. You know how I like it when I'm trying to sleep.
I am actually wait.
Yeah? What?
Dude, I got working. It's
Good night.
poop.
What happened?
I was gonna say I launched it, but I'm kidding.
Okay.
There's still 15 minutes though.
Did you brush?
Okay, I'm back. And by the way, hi Fatty, yes hi. But what I want to do when Mario Maker 2 releases, I want to just go on the chat. I want to go into chat and just say, oh, by the way, Mario Maker 2 is out. And then just leave. Or just hear the reactions for a second and then just leave.
Oh my god. I can't wait. Help, please. I'm going insane.
Yeah.
Baby.
$13. I agree.
Doe again. Thank you so much.
Shut. I don't care, Game Explain.
And it feels really nice in my tight rear end. To start
Jet ASMR. I like cheese. How did that sound?
How did you feel when Kids Bop changed riding on my tractor, lean all in my bladder in Old Town Road to riding on my tractor, riding on my bladder? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Did they?
Riding on a tractor, riding on my bladder.
I'm at a loss. I understand that they had to change lean all in my bladder, but why in God's name did they even keep the bladder part? So many things rhyme with tractor. Doing more chores after, someone get a ladder, caught me staring at her, can't feel any gladder, madder than a hatter. All of those make more sense than riding on my bladder. But that's not even the best part about this Kids Bop cover. In the original Old Town Road song, the immediate next lyrics are, cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her. Now, obviously, the Kids Bop kids can't be
What have we just done?
singing about cheating on the
I don't know.
baby. So how, I ask you, do you think they changed that lyric? Is it, my girl did something crazy, feeling super lazy, cloudy skies be hazy, or saw a pretty lady? I'll give you 30 seconds on the clock. Okay, time's up. Here's the answer.
Cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her.
They didn't change it. They left that line in. They let a 9-year-old sing, cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her. The rules of Kids Bop are just chaos. I can't be the only one fascinated by this, right? I don't know. Why aren't more people talking about this? Oh right, Jack asked, we have more questions. Is Two Toes Up excited for Banjo and Smash? Aw, oh, hell yeah, dude. In fact,
Dude, Brutus.
What?
Brutus.
What?
What should I do for the last 10 minutes of Until Mario Maker?
I will just stare at my screen.
Oh.
My screen.
I'm not gonna do that. I want to do something. But it's gotta be related to Mario Maker.
I just put my Switch on sleep mode so it's on 100%.
Okay.
Actually, no, it's on 99% right now, so...
Here, I'll BRB.
That, so.
I'll BRB. Okay, I'm back. Oh, yeah, Mario fan games. Good idea, good idea, good idea.
What?
I look up Mario fan games, the first thing that comes up is Sonic the Hedgehog. That's pretty funny.
What the hell? Just because I'm sub to Markiplier doesn't mean that I have to see this. I bet you 100% YouTube monetized that.
Yeah.
Probably. Knowing them.
Oh, damn it, these are all, Flash. Okay, here we go.
Should I stay?
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm gonna poo.
Okay, it's gonna be super loud, isn't it?
6 minutes. 10
Hey, since I deleted all my videos, I kind of want to do a fresh start. Okay.
You deleted all your videos?
No, I'm reading somebody's chat. Please help me out. I don't know. I don't know. Also, this is a great game. What a great game to... Oh, fuck. What a great game to end. You can just go on grass, no penalty. Also 149 miles per hour in a fucking like shopping cart. I really don't know what to start with. I mean, like, I started with actually good edited videos, but I'm not sure if you have access to a decent editor, so I'm not sure. Mario Karts.
I'm a decent editor. Except I'll be like literally inactive this entire month.
What am I watching? I don't know.
Oh, by the way.
Hello? Fuck, I missed the boost. I'm in first, I better not lose this. Fuck. Gonna get you road and I agree.
Well, I know the best thing is about this entire thing, though.
What?
I confirmed with my dad I could literally stay up all night.
Yeah? No, what? What the fuck was that?
It's called me tweeting it. I like did that as a joke. I didn't know it would actually be serious.
Doing what?
The
Doing what?
thing. Like deleting that one channel.
What channel?
Like the main chat earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
I'm
Like-
bad at making up jokes.
Okay.
What if I went
BRB? What if you went BRB?
right at 9?
No.
Would that be a button? BRB.
Hey, wait a second. The track style is literally Mario Kart DS. Really? That's funny. Well, I love how the bottom description says OK hand. You have to refresh the entire fucking page every time. Also the image, also the yes, Donkey Kong Country, my favorite Mario game. Mario's Adventure R2. Oh, hell yeah. Fuck. Paper Mario and just like shitty, weird Sonic. Oh, 2 minutes! Holy shit. Dude, the hype is real. We're just gonna. This is the game we're gonna ride away with. Yeah. It's fucking motocross paper world. Motocross paper world. Fuck! How do you do this? Jump! It's 2 time. Yeah, that's the game. Ah! Motocross. No. Fuck. Mario got hurt! No! Get rid of the hospital, he's hurt! I don't know what the fuck that was. You know what? 50 seconds! Guys. 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 25. Okay, let's count down, boys. Okay, here we go. Here we go, guys. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's counting up now. Okay, whatever. That's that. It's Mario time, boys. Okay, I'm gonna get my fucking phone. Okay. Okay, so guys, it is exactly 11. Supposedly Mario Maker 2 should be up. Excuse me, well, what the fuck? Can you... It literally says I can't! Okay, get your fucking phone. Dude, it literally can't, this can't be. What the fuck? Dude. This is stupid. What? Yeah, excuse me, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly. New releases. It's... Release date. I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. Maybe it's for another time zone. It's fucking not. And literally... It's been confirmed that it's supposed to be... What the fuck? Brutus! What the f... Where are you? Liars. Exactly! Brutus fucking lied! It's... But dude!
Wait, I can't play it either.
Exactly!
Wait.
Dude!
I think they're just trying to update the servers right now. So, like, changing, like, a value from, like, 0 to 1.
Yeah, okay.
That decides whether people can actually play it or not, and that's
Yeah,
another
okay,
thing.
okay, yeah.
Keep doing that and tell me when it's good, because my Switch is literally dying rapidly. It's at 96.
Wow. That's sad.
I've only been using it for like 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep spamming these buttons. You good?
No.
Why?
Poop. Wait, I'm gonna see if it's working for other people. Because game
Because game what?
can launch stripes thing.
What
Did you see
happened?
that?
Oh, game
Yeah,
explain.
people are saying it needs some wait, people are saying reset the switch and it'll work.
Reset the switch?
Yeah.
System. Where the fuck? Where is it?
You don't know how to turn off and on the switch?
Yeah, I know how to turn it off and on, but how do you restart it?
Oh, no, I think you're talking about something else. You hold down the power button and then go to power options.
Yeah, I know. Oh, power options?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, power options. Where the fuck is that? I hit sleep mode. Is that what you're talking about?
Wait. People are saying it works. People are saying it works now.
Okay. I'm gonna film.
It's taking longer than usual.
Okay, so guys.
Oh, I got to select the user menu.
Oh my god. Guys! Oh my god!
It launched. Yes!
Holy shit! Guys! I can literally fucking play! It's here! Oh my god!
Hold on, BRB.
Holy shit! I know, Mom, but just... just go.
Everybody can hear you,
No one
including
cares. No one cares.
Kat and Catherine.
Okay, I'm sorry, just...
They're texting, wondering what's wrong.
It's just so exciting.
Okay, well, don't scream.
But guys, it's fucking out. I just don't know what to say. Okay, well that's gonna be the end of the stream. I'm just gonna stop it. I mean, like, okay, bye everyone.